Back again here in the Fox 43 podcast studio, talking Locked On Penguins. Ed Albert here, joined today by the host of Locked On Penguins, Hunter Hodes. Hunter, big news coming out of the Penguins world. David Morehouse, CEO now for about 16, 17 years, has stepped down. That happened last night. Your reaction, first of all?
I think surprising is probably the word for it. Just, excuse me, the timing of it was very odd. I thought there was really no rumors that this was going to happen well before, but I think, there's a lot of changes that are probably going to be coming to the organization at some point this summer, especially with the new ownership group running the show here. Fenway Sports Group, obviously they have Liverpool, they have the Boston Red Sox, they want their own CEO in charge. And I know David Morehouse I think he spoke to Mike DeFabo of the Post-Gazette last night and said, no, the timing was right. He wants to take his daughter to softball practice and stuff. But I can't help but think that, this is mainly a move that Fenway, they want their own CEO in there that maybe has some more hockey experience. David Morehouse, he did a lot of good for the Penguins organization.
Absolutely.
3 Stanley Cups, a lot of stability within the organization. But, I think, a lot of he's rooted in, I think, in politics. So I think he could go back to that potentially. I think they want someone in there that potentially is more of the hockey side. So definitely surprising. I think Elliot Friedman also said that in his 32 Thoughts blog last night. There's probably going to be more details that come out about it at some point. But, I think this is the first, big change that we may see happen with the organization this summer.
Yeah, you saw a lot of the reports coming out, too, that it sounded like it was an amicable, breakup between Morehouse and the team. Obviously, no other it's not wholesale changes here. We still have Brian Burke in charge with hockey ops. You've got Kevin Acklin still involved. So it's not like they did a house cleaning. But like you said, kind of seems that we're starting down this road of changes. That this fan base, it seems like every 20 years, this fan base sort of goes through that. You've got, you had Mario come in 84. And then when Mario left, then there was a little bit of turmoil and turnover. And then Sid comes, and now, Sid's on his 17th year here, and seems to be some changes coming again. We've got the contracts coming up with Malkin and Letang. So, as we get into that, Hunter, it seems that, this offseason, depending on how long of a playoff run they make, it could be a lot of changes for the Pens fan base, not just front office, not just on the ice, but it could be everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, we're approaching the end here of this almost 20-year run. It's hard to believe that it's almost been 2 decades since Sid, Gino, and Letang got here. They've been playing for the last 16 years. There's obviously 2 big changes could happen there. If they go out in the first round again, could Mike Sullivan be on his way out? He's arguably the best coach in the franchise's history. That would be a significant change. You nailed it, Ed. We're approaching a very interesting time, I think, here in Penguin land with the potential for a lot of changes, both on the ice and off the ice. We already saw it with one move yesterday. What's coming next? That's for sure. And I don't really know who they're going to target for the CEO. I don't know who's going to report that or anything, but I'm sure the ownership is going to take their time with who they want to fill that spot.
Well, and as you mentioned, Hunter, the Fenway Sports Group, the new ownership, they obviously they've got a lot of experience in running, successful sports franchises. So as a Penguins fan looking at it, I don't know that fans should be too concerned. I don't know that this means that the team's all of a sudden going to stink and go back to tanking territory again. But, as, newer fans that had come on board during the Sid era, a lot of the familiar faces of the Morehouses and those people, now we're just going to probably start to see some of those go away. I mean, it's still nice to see Mario in the owner's box during games. I don't know that Mario's going away anytime soon from the team, but it is sort of a changing of the guard coming up. And I think it's just going to be an interesting way to see what the Fenway group does here. Obviously they've got their team playing in their ballpark, next year for the Winter Classic. So, the connection's already starting there with Fenway Sports Group. But, the off the ice stuff isn't the fun part to talk about, is it, Hunter?
No, that's to say the least. And, I'll say this about the Fenway Sports Group, they'll spend their money, to get winners for their teams. They want to win. I think that's the
Yep.
biggest thing here. They're not, I don't think they're a cheap ownership group. I know they probably know where the team is heading right now with the aging superstars, but they're going to try to win, every year if they can. That's just how they're wired. So, whenever, the big three do leave, they're going to still want to try to do a rebuild right, but they're going to try to, I think, win as soon as they can.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, speaking of winning, let's turn our attention a little bit to the ice. The regular season just about getting to wrap up here. Want to get this in a little bit too. Columbus game tomorrow. You might be watching this at any time, but Friday the 29th is the Penguins' final regular season game. Shirts off your back night against the Columbus Blue Jackets. The last couple outings, you don't want to give up 9 goals against and only score 2 heading into the playoffs. Against a rival and a really good Edmonton team. So, Hunter, where do you see this going? I mean, they've got one more tune-up game left. You'd have to imagine DeSmith's going to get the start to try to see if he can work out some of the demons from the other night, but I don't know that the other night was on him either. They just looked slow.
Yeah, I don't think the outcomes matter so much right now, but to me, like, the ugliness really does. You can't get outskated like that, outchanced like that, outskilled like that, out defended like that against a team that, the Oilers are not known for being a good defensive team. Oscar Klefbom hasn't even played this year. Darnell Nurse is out. Their best defenseman right now is Evan Bouchard, and he's not even a top pairing guy. They have Chris Russell, old friend Cody Ceci, and a bunch of other mid-pair defensemen. I mean, I don't think, the Penguins, they should be able to have more than one goal, I think, against an Oilers team. I know Mike Smith has played a lot better. But the Penguins have played well against the Jackets. This is a team that it's very much a big brother, little brother rivalry. If they can get a big win over them, that should maybe help their confidence a little bit. But, I see a lot going wrong right now that I don't know if they can fix in a first round series against the New York Rangers or the Florida Panthers.
I mean, you're seeing them come again, they blow out the Red Wings, and now you've got the Jackets to finish. It seems like they're doing okay against the teams that they quote unquote should beat. But but then you lose to a bad Flyers team that's been out of the mix for weeks. So it seems like there's, but that's a rivalry game. You'd think that, you've seen before how Sid wants to show up against the Flyers, and he seemed to be the only one that had any life in that game. But the way that they're approaching this, it seems like they're not stepping up against these teams that they should be competing more against. If you look at where they sit in the standings, the games against the Rangers this year, they've not competed to the level that you would expect a playoff team and with the talent of the Penguins caliber to perform.
Yeah, it's funny. They had that first big gauntlet stretch. I want to say that was in March, and they did really well with it. I think they went like 5-2-1 over that stretch, and then they obviously had this big stretch in April. Colorado twice, the Rangers a couple of times, Minnesota, and after that first Avalanche game, they should have probably gotten a point out of it. They probably should have won the game. I was still pretty hopeful about it because they played the best team in the league at a very high level. After that, though, something just changed. I don't know if their confidence went down. I don't know if something was said. I don't know, but something obviously changed. And, this month of April has not been kind to them against some of the best teams in the league. And again, if they don't get this situated and, they don't start finishing their chances more and their goaltending doesn't improve a little bit and they don't start defending well in the defensive zone, I think that's really been a big thing I've noticed. They've given up a lot more odd man rushes. They're doing a lot of these heave and pray prays, as I like to call them, and just trying to chip out the glass and praying to God that a player does not jump up and keep the puck in. They need to start getting back to Penguins hockey, which is playing Mike Sullivan's system. And if they don't do that, they're going to be a quick out in the first round. I don't care if it is the Panthers or the Rangers. And I apologize for my dogs for whining in the background here. We're going to have to deal with that.
It's the Zoom world, right?
Yeah, it is. It is truly the Zoom world. I'm glad it's not anything else. That's for sure. But no, it's just that's how I see it. I think it is. And I don't have a preference for who they play in the first round, Ed. That all 8 of these teams are really good. I don't think anyone will be surprised if anyone won one of these series. Even though I'm down on the Penguins right now, would I be really surprised if they were to beat one of those 2 teams? No, because I've seen them play at this level. Those Correct. 4 months, they were one of the best teams in the league. I know something changed, but I know they can play at the level that we've seen them play at, that where they can beat these teams in a 7-game series.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
and just against those two teams, we've seen them have good outings against the Rangers as well. We've seen them have really good outings against the Panthers this year. Those were some of the most entertaining games that we had, earlier on in the season. So I think that there is that opportunity there for them to maybe, hopefully flip the switch when it comes to playoff time. But I'm like you look at the Eastern Conference. I mean, it's stacked. The Western Conference is just as tough, but at the bottom of the West, I think there's a little more give from the top. But I mean, you look at the 8 teams making it in the East. I mean, they're probably sitting around having similar discussions like we are. There's probably things with the Rangers and with the Panthers, and obviously the Capitals have injury issues, and you're looking at the Leafs, with some injury issues. There are other teams in the conference that aren't just as satisfied with how they're playing this time of the year either. So I got to agree with you there that it wouldn't shock me one way or the other.
No, yeah, I mean, it really would not. I mean, the Panthers, Sergei Bobrovsky has wilted down in the playoffs numerous times. I know how good their offense is. It very much reminds me of the 2016 Penguins. The Rangers, on the other hand, they play very defensively. It's a style that the Penguins have given them fits. I think these last few years, they played the Islanders twice and the Canadiens, 2 teams that didn't really give them much. And we all saw what happened. Although I think last year, if Tristan Jarry is at least average, I think beat the Islanders in 6 games.
Absolutely.
At least in my opinion. So,
well, and hopefully with him being week to week, maybe that could be something that we could look forward to in the playoffs. They start Monday. We don't know yet exactly who the Pens are going to play or when they would start. So I would imagine that there are probably still some series that would start on Tuesday, the 3rd. So, a little bit more, not quite a full week of rest, but that's another week for Jarry. That puts it like 3 weeks. Right. So hopefully, there might be something there for him that, we could potentially, get Jarry back for the start of the playoffs.
That's the hope. It's been 2 weeks to the day now since he reportedly had that broken bone in his foot, has not skated yet. So I'm not super hopeful right now, though. If he can come back at some point in the series, that would be nice. I know DeSmith has played better hockey as of late, though. Again, do I trust him really to win a 7-game series? I don't. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of teams facing goaltending problems this year. It's not just the Penguins. UC Saros might be out for the Predators.
Yep.
Frederik Andersen in Carolina. Toronto has had goalie issues. Washington they've been going back and forth with who they've been starting. It's definitely been a weird year for playoff teams where you don't really know who the starting goaltender is going to be for, almost at least a third of the league. I think at this point. So hopefully after this game, he can get back onto the ice. Though right now I'm not super hopeful about because it's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Hunter. And again, I appreciate your help with some analysis on what we're looking at here as we finish up the season. We'll have Hunter back on once we find out who the playoff opponent will be for the Penguins. We'll do a little playoff series preview with that. So stay tuned for that. Hunter, thanks for taking the time to be with us. Let the people know where they can find you, see your stuff, listen to your stuff, read your stuff.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. The Locked On Penguins podcast is on Apple and Spotify and YouTube. I also work for The Spun, which is part of Sports Illustrated, where we do breaking news articles. You can check out my writing there. But all my Penguin stuff, Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, Monday through Friday episodes. Definitely excited for the playoffs, man. I know the Penguins are kind of limping their way in, but who knows? Maybe they will flip a switch and surprise us a little bit.
All right. That's the last word from Hunter Hodes, Locked On Penguins. I'm Ed Albert from the Fox 43 podcast studio. We'll see you next time.